So it's been said that imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery. And let's be honest, between Android and iOS, they have been flattering each other then for many years. But I think something that's really interesting is we've seen gradually Android and iOS become more and more similar than different. I got an interesting comment on one of my other videos that talked about how, like, if you're an Android user, now might be the time to switch because iOS 18 is bringing a lot of features that are very similar to Android that make it at least easier to switch over. So I wanted to take a little time, look at iOS 18. I downloaded the beta and just kind of give you guys my initial thoughts on certain things that I like and maybe some things that I don't like as much. So first up, right off the bat, if you're an Android person, one of the reasons that you like Android is because of the ability for customization or to change the way that your home screen looks. And Google added in Android 12 this thing called Material You. Fast forward to iOS 18 and Apple has added Apple or iOS theming, which pretty much does the same thing. It allows you to theme your icons to the color of your wallpaper or to pick a color that you want your icons to look like, which is a great addition, but I don't think I really like the way that Apple is going to implement it. And let me explain why. So first off, on the surface, this seems like a deep level of customization, but the reality is sometimes you need some kinds of guardrails because you have the ability with this to either make really nice looking wallpapers and home screen designs or really ugly ones. And that's mainly because you can pick any color on the spectrum to theme your icons. Well, I kind of like the way that Android does it a little bit better with Material You because it gives you a few options that are more in line with the color palettes of your wallpaper, and it makes it look a little bit more cohesive. On the other side, you do have a little bit more flexibility with iOS 18 and their color theming options. So I think this is something that's probably a little bit more subjective. I'm not really a fan of the way that it's implemented because I think it makes the icons look really ugly. And then there's the tinting issue where you can also change the color of any icon, whether they support this or not. And I think when you tint them, and then with dark theme and all the other things that go into it, it just, like I said, it gives you the ability to make something that's really ugly. And I'm just personally not a fan of that. But I will say, all in all, having more customization on the iPhone makes it feel a little bit more personal. And I do enjoy having that. So like right now, iOS 18 is in beta. Hopefully with more beta updates, and as we move closer to September when they actually release iOS 18, maybe they'll correct some of these things or maybe just tune it down just a little bit so that it doesn't look as bad. Another thing you're getting in this update is the ability to finally, yes, finally, place icons anywhere that you want on the home screen, or at least in theory. See, one thing that I like on Android is you're able to actually take the icons and you can place them in a grid anywhere you actually want on the screen without really affecting the other aspects of the screen, your widgets or your other icons, especially if it's a blank space. But something that's really weird to me that Apple decided to do, and I'm not sure why, is when you try to move certain icons, or when you try to move icons, period, you can place them anywhere, but if they're near a widget or other icons, sometimes it causes them to jump all over the screen, or there's like some weird order that you're supposed to move them in. I don't know, all in all, it doesn't really feel very cohesive. And so I find it more frustrating, more so than anything, when I'm trying to just rearrange the icons on my home screen. Once again, I like the idea of more customization, but the way that they're implementing it, I'm just not sure that many people are going to enjoy it, unless you've been like a long time iPhone user and you're just happy to be getting this feature. But I think it could be a lot better. So hopefully this is something that they improve in future updates as well. Now let's talk a little bit about the widgets, because this is something that Apple decided to include a few updates ago, where you finally had widgets on your home screen that you could be able to view certain information through the widgets. Now, the way that they implement it is a little bit different than Android, because Android actually gives you functionality to the widgets. Like you have buttons that you can press and actually initiate things in the app without actually having to go into the app. Whereas Apple decided to go for more like a visual aspect where it gives you like glanceable information for certain apps, which is great because let's be honest, the way that they design these widgets, they look really, really good. But if you want to change anything or make any kinds of adjustments or switch on something in the app, Most apps, if you press on the widget, it's going to take you into the app, and then you got to go through and do that additional step to actually get the functionality out of it. But something that was added with this one is the ability to resize your widgets. So you can take an app, you can long press on it, and then if you want to resize it, you just stretch it out and it changes the aspect ratio of the widget and sometimes the design. And I actually think that's one area where iOS has a leg up over Android. It's just having that flexibility when it comes to widgets. You have widget stacks where you can stack them on top of each other and kind of scroll through them. And the way that they implemented it just seems to be better to me. So I actually do like the way that they did widgets. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the control center, because if you've been a long time iOS user, this is changing for you. It's a lot more colorful. You have a lot more customization when it comes to this area. And all in all, I think it's going to be better, but it will take some getting used to. So now, because of the customization of iOS 18, you have the ability to add other tiles to your control center. You also have the ability to add widgets, to resize them, very similar to what you would do on the home screen. But you also can add shortcuts. And this is something that's more specific to iOS, with the ability to pull certain parts of an app or certain functions outside of an app into a shortcut. So for example, it's hot right now, it's the summertime. Being able to pull the shortcut for my Tesla app to maybe cool down the cabin or unlock the car is a neat addition. And it makes the iPhone feel, well, at least with this aspect in the control center, more customizable than I would even say on Android. So I like customization. I feel like that's a step in the right direction. I will give the control center a thumbs up, and hopefully they continue to improve upon it. But yeah, I think that's a very good idea. All right, so let's move away from customization because I really want to talk about this. I think it's really interesting that when Apple had their keynote about iOS 18, we were really looking forward to RCS coming to the iPhone to improve communication between Apple and Android. And yeah, it looks like we're finally getting that. Now, I do think it's funny they didn't spend a lot of time talking about it or any of the features that are actually coming with RCS, but it's here. So I have been testing it out a little bit to see how it works. Understand too that your carrier has to support RCS and actually turn it on for you for your device. So even though technically the beta iOS 18 supports it, if your carrier doesn't have it on, then you may not see it. Also, another thing to note, and I didn't know if they were going to do this, is it's actually turned on by default. So I thought that Apple was actually going to not turn this on by default, keep it buried under settings menu or something like that, so it's hard to find, but they didn't. It's actually there by default. It's turned on, and if your device supports it, then it's going to work. I will say it is a sigh of relief. I am so glad to be able to send high quality photos or high quality videos back and forth with people that I message. I've even tried it between my devices, and it seems to work 75% or 80% of the time, and that's fine. It's a beta right now, but they've still got some kinks that they probably need to iron out. But it gives us a glimpse of what's coming in the future, and the fact that this doesn't fall back to SMS, and we can finally stop arguing about iMessage versus Android. Hopefully, at least here in the States, yeah, it leaves me hopeful. Now, they don't support the same level of RCS that Android is using that also includes end-to-end encryption and some other features that are more specific to RCS, but at least they've started with the basics. Hopefully they add those things in the future, but that remains to be seen. But before we get off of that, let me add, there are still some features that are very specific to iMessage. So if you're coming in expecting that you're going to be able to share your location or send money, play games, things of that nature, those are iMessage specific features. You're not going to be able to do that here. But if you're just looking to see read receipts or have tapbacks that aren't text messages that say that so-and-so liked this photo or liked that text message, I think that's good. And then on top of that, like I mentioned, the high quality video, high quality photos, I think that's what people really wanted in the first place. All those extra features are just kind of like the cherry on top. So if you're a heavy iMessage user or if you're an Android user, let's take a minute. Round of applause. It's okay to rejoice because it's been a long time coming and I'm glad that it's here. So these are just 3 main features that stuck out to me. There's a lot of changes that are coming with iOS 18 and things that are being built upon. But I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about iOS. It's not really my platform of choice. I'm an Android guy, right? So I'm not really sure of the things that they're hugely changing. But I will say these three things that I mentioned, the customization on the home screen, changes to the control center, and RCS finally coming to the iPhone. Those are the things that I'm most excited about. But you guys let me know down in the comments, what's one feature that you're really looking forward to in iOS 18? If you've been using the beta like I have, let me know how your experience has been. Drop your answers down below in the comments. And as always, I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.